Hello YouTube. Today I'd like to take a break from those writing instrument reviews and bring you something a little different. A look at one of the retro video game consoles that came out when I was just a little kid. Enter the Game Boy Pocket. This was released by Nintendo in the 90s, I think around 1996. It was intended as a pocket version of the original Game Boy, as the name suggests. This one is ice blue. I think it's a limited edition, but according to eBay prices, it's not that much rarer than the regular Game Boy Pocket. It's powered by two AAA batteries, which you can see here. Let me open this up. Which is unlike any other Game Boy ever released. The other Game Boys, including the original Game Boy, Game Boy Light, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance, all use AA batteries, with the original Game Boy using 4 and the rest of the ones I mentioned using 2. This one's the only one that uses AAA. But it allows it to have a very slim profile, which I really like. On the front, you've got the very familiar B and A buttons and the iconic D-pad. Select and start buttons are horizontal, as opposed to the original Game Boy's sort of slash look. And it's got the speaker. And the screen, it's a little scuffed up here, but that happens with age, is actually way bigger than the original Game Boy. And one of the biggest advancements is, instead of the pea green color, it has a true monochrome LCD, which we're used to today. Let's turn it on, have a look. Turn up the volume. As you can see, it's nothing to write home about today, but back in the day, it was actually a fairly nice display considering the upgrade from the original Game Boy. When you turn it off, you get this awesome tube TV style look. Check it out. I really enjoy that. It's a little touch. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but it's pretty cool. The on-off switch is at the top, just like the original Game Boy, and on the side here, we've got an extension port and volume knob. Extension port is the same as the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color, as well as the Advance SP. So you can link up, for example, Pokemon Blue with somebody else who's playing either Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance. Wow, this color is not accurate. Interesting. In any case, on the right side of the console, handheld, you have a contrast knob, which you can pull a prank on your friends by turning it all the way down or all the way up and convince them it's broken. On the back, you've got the barcode, which amazingly is still intact, and the info label. If it focuses, there we go. Model number MGB001, and it uses two AAA batteries. And we have the Nintendo Authorized Repair Center sticker. On the bottom, you've got a headphone out and DC 3 volts in. Yeah, it's upside down. Overall, a very nice console. I thought I'd show you a couple of the games I have for the Game Boy so you can see exactly what it looks like. Oh, one more thing before I forget. Notice here how it has this, how all original Game Boy games have this little notch. That was initially intended so that the game cannot be pulled out of the original Game Boy while it's on. There was a little plastic tab attached to the on switch. It was actually one plastic piece contiguous with the on switch that slid into place when you moved it that way, such that the game could not be pulled out. But here, in the interest of space, they omitted that, which allows you to put in Game Boy Color games, which do not have that notch. Here's Top Gun Firestorm, here's Looney Tunes Collector's Alert, Lego Stunt Rally. It doesn't have that notch, so you can technically put it in there, but what happens if I try to use a Game Boy Color game on the Game Boy Pocket. This game pack is specially designed for Game Boy Color. Please use Game Boy Color to play this game. And that happens with any clear cartridge Game Boy Color game. Black cartridge ones, for example, Game & Watch Gallery 3, have the notch, so they're optimized for color if you're playing it on a Super Game Boy or on a Game Boy Color or Advance SP. But on the original Game Boy, they'll play in black and white. As we wait for the power. And I know you're not supposed to do that, but hey, it's an urban legend. It says it works. And lo and behold, here we have Game & Watch Gallery 3. And you can play it in glorious monochrome. So there was my quick look at the Game Boy Pocket. It's a very slim console. Here it is compared to the Game Boy Color. On the front you can see that the screen is actually bigger than the Game Boy Color by quite a bit considering how small these consoles are. And the A and B buttons are not engraved. This was the last Game Boy for them not to be engraved. The Game Boy Light engraved the buttons. Game Boy Light was a backlit version of the Game Boy Pocket that was released only in Japan. Only about 12,000 were made, to my knowledge. And the biggest difference you can see and feel is the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, the Game Boy Color uses AA batteries. And so you have a much slimmer profile in the Game Boy Pocket than you do on the Color, which for some people can be more comfortable to hold. I personally prefer the bulge on this one because your hand kind of fits, but that's just me. On the bottom, it's basically identical. On the back, basically identical. On the top, almost identical. And, you know, I'll cover the differences again in my review of the Game Boy Color, which is coming up actually right after this video. Alright, so there you have it, the Game Boy Pocket. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it refreshing or useful. If not, I hope you have a great day anyway, and please be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe if you like my videos. Thanks for watching. Till next year, this is Super V Power.